Bonsoir les amis, this is Llyane Stanfield and you can find me at ParisianFrench.com. How long is going to take you to speak French confidently? And this is a question that I'm sure you asked of yourself, as well as you may have asked your teachers, your friends, and you hope for the best, but time passes. We are the second day of 2017, and if you really think about it, what you have been talking to yourself or family, friends, maybe you have already promised yourself that you would speak French pretty well by now. So I wanted to tell you about a few scenarios and to give you a little bit of feedback from my experience. Okay, that. So in my experience, there are three categories of people, and that would be someone who speaks, someone who knows French already, knows well, even teaches, and they don't really speak it confidently. So you'd think, well, what do they need? They just need to speak it if they know it, right? And so I promise you they do. I have clients who teach French at high school level, and they are my students in my intensive program. And that is not because they don't know French, that is because they don't actually use it right. So it doesn't come naturally to use it in speech. So I'm going to take the most optimistic case, meaning someone who knows the language and actually has the luxury to invest a lot of time in practicing the language so that it becomes smoother. And so that could be, I don't know, maybe finding someone to talk with, and also I'm thinking maybe going to Paris, let's see, once or twice this year, maybe once, depends on the, I guess, again, time that you have to spend to go there. Also, when you go there, do you go there for an immersion? Do you go there with friends or family? Because if you do go with friends or family, it's not much time that you devote to speaking and attention to developing your speech, rather to entertain and to mingle, and that will actually take quite a bit of time from that week if you invested a week there. So I'm going to say that someone who's really invested in improving the conversational skills in French could take anywhere from, I don't know, 3 months, I would say, in the situation that I described to you, to maybe even a year, depending again how much time you put into it. And the biggest problem really is the discipline. And I know, because I'm learning Spanish and Italian right now. German, I kind of left it a little because it's not fulfilling to me. I don't speak it with anyone, but I'm not gonna let it go. However, see what I'm doing? And so I notice my own behavior, and I actually also witness my clients, and so I see what can happen. So I'm gonna say someone who really knows really well French, the language, would be able to make confident conversation so anywhere between 3 months and 1 year. I'm talking about someone committed to doing this year, like New Year's resolution. Now is the time for New Year's resolution, right? So someone who says, this year I'm going to speak confidently in French, they will do it because they know the French. They don't really have to work on anything as a prerequisite. The second category of people would be people who don't quite know well the language, and that not only is that a reality, a real impediment to making confident conversation, but most of what that constitutes is an excuse, right? So we always say, well, I would love to invest my time in conversation, but first I need to learn it well, and then once I know the language, then I can make conversation. And that's the biggest mistake, like everybody makes, the absolute biggest mistake. For two reasons. One is because really you don't need that. You don't really need to learn the language perfectly in order for you to speak. And secondly, because it just doesn't work that way in your brain. It just doesn't work that way in your brain. And again, it's an excuse. So I'm going to say for these people who don't yet know, so I'm going to talk about intermediate here, intermediate level in knowledge of French. So someone at the intermediate level in French, if they'd say, well, I really want to speak this year, and so I'm going to make my New Year's resolution, I'm going to speak confidently in French this year, they could make it, right? Because they could invest their time in the learning from intermediate to advanced in that mindset, right? So if you have that mindset that first I need to learn it and then I'll be able to speak, that's what most people do. Oh, well, I have to learn this and this and this and that. Okay, now I've finished whatever program at whatever advanced level, and now I'm going to invest myself in conversation. So it's going to take, what, a year, right? More or less. Someone who really wants to do it this year may be able to do it this year, of course. Someone who doesn't have a clue of French, just loves the language and is like completely passionate about the culture and really, really, really wants it. I'm telling you right now from my experience, because I'm talking to a lot of people approach me, and now I have this system where I talk to people first. Before, they were coming on my website and they were liking the program and registering, and then they will hear all about it. But now I made it so that people, yeah, they can register. People can register still directly from my website, but I make it so with questions and whatnot to direct them to rather speak to me first, because it's so important to actually know what are your odds, right? Can I do it in what time frame and how? So someone who never touched French before but is absolutely mesmerized by it, if they, do you think that anybody, I mean, you please comment on under this video. I would love to hear from you, because if you are one in that category, I would like to know if you would make this New Year's resolution to speak French confidently this year. Most of the people who never touched French before are really, really beginners. They will never even dream to speak confidently French this year. And then there's my program. So, or my approach. The way I see and do things is you start speaking, no matter what level you are at. I mean, you may not have touched French ever in your life. You will speak French, maybe not confidently at the beginning, but you will speak French. And not this year, if you started today with me in the program, but you would start speaking French in the second lesson with me, second week. So that's the difference. Because the way I approach language learning is an immersive, but don't get overwhelmed by that idea, meaning, oh my God, I have no idea of French, and now she wants me to only do everything in French. We won't do everything in French. We don't. But what we do is encourage conversation. Do everything, all the learning happens for conversation. Everything is learned in the way of applying with already phrases that you can already apply, you can already use in conversation with me. And we actually make conversation the second week if you never touched French before. If you are in the other two categories, you speak right away with me. Because the way to learn the language, quickly for an adult, I mean, an adult doesn't want to spend, how many years of education is for a child from 7 years old to what, 18, 11 years? Nobody wants to take 11 years to learn a language. Everybody I see other people speaking it, so I must be also able to, to do it. So, but everybody starts upside down, as in everybody starts learning the theory first, all the theory, and then apply it, like as if learning a language would be, I don't know, chemistry. You first learn the rules and then you do the experiment. Or math, you first learn the theorems and then you apply it in, or physics. You get the idea. So it's not like that. When you learn a language, no matter what language you want to learn, you get a little bit of some words, right? Just a tiny little bit, and you start conversation right away. Now you have to have someone to start conversation with, and having someone for like a friend or someone who's doing these exchange things, language exchange, be very careful, because if they're not trained to correct you, to guide you, then you will just reinforce, by all the tries and practice, you will actually reinforce habits, bad habits. So if you're not confident by 2 weeks, 3 weeks into this language exchange, then it doesn't work. You must know that. That means that you just reinforce old habits, and nobody's actually getting you outside of the mind cycle, right? So that's what I have for you. If you want to speak French confidently this year, much faster than you ever thought, whatever the level that you're at, whether you never touched French before, you will speak confidently this year. My program is a 5-month program, and in this 5 months, roughly 5 months, and in this 5 months, you will speak confidently at a high, intermediate to advanced level. That does not just know, because the vocabulary depends, the volume of your vocabulary will depend on your intent, on your efforts. But you don't need to have a huge vocabulary in order for you to speak confidently at an advanced level. You need to know phrase construction, and with simple vocabulary you can actually do that successfully in a few months, even if you are a beginner. So all I have to say to you is, whether you work with me or not, start focusing on conversation rather than learning the theory, and making conversation apply the theory and enrich your vocabulary and your grammar as you speak. That's all I had for you for today. Don't ever give up on your dream to become bilingual. Learn to speak Parisian French and break the language barrier. Merci beaucoup et à demain. Au revoir.